Okay. I'm going to take these off. Ladies, we're about to get started. If you'd like to take a seat, it's up to you. I know the weather is not great. Hi, Sue. I'm gonna ask you to say hello so that I can see if the sound is working. I'm turning the volume back up.
Hello.
Make sure that you're not muted.
I'm not muted as far as I know, am I?
Let me see.
There'll be lots online.
Sorry, for some reason, no, I can't hear you guys. So Sue, can you say something else?
Hi, I can you hear me now? Is that a yes?
Yes, because we've muted ourselves.
We can hear you.
That's so weird now that
Okay,
it's
I haven't
done
muted
this.
myself yet because I'm talking first.
How should we work? Oh, I think I fixed it. Hi, Sue. Can you hear me now? Or can I hear you now?
Yeah, I can. Can you hear me?
Oh, yes. Perfect.
Perfect. Okay, good.
Okay, perfect. Sorry about that, folks.
Oh, it's so glowing.
Yes, it was very snowy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Four-way, we used the four-way flashy. Yeah, there was a big truck and I was in it in time. So I'm glad you're down for saying, oh, no, I had no, I just put it there too. No.
Okay, so we're gonna get started. When I'm speaking, this mic is picking up what I'm saying. So if you guys can hold questions till the end and just make sure you don't talk too loud if you whisper to each other and things like that. That way it won't catch anything that you guys are saying, if that makes sense. Yeah, no worries. Thanks. Yeah, of course. I just, have to make sure. But thank you all for coming. Hopefully everyone who's joining virtually, I'm still admitting people virtually as I see them come up here. But thank you so much for joining us today in person. The weather here is not great, so that's awesome that you guys made it. And obviously virtually it means the world as well. This is going to be a very interesting and inspiring talk, I'm sure. My name is Sydney MacArthur. I'm the program coordinator at the Bruce County Museum and Cultural Center. So I run all the programs and events here. Let me just admit these people as well. Louder? Sure, yeah. So my name is Sydney MacArthur. I'm the program coordinator here at the Bruce County Museum. And today we're obviously gathered for the discussion surrounding the exhibition Renewal by the Studio Art Quilting Associates. And we're going to be joined, we are joined by our moderator or the lovely soul who's going to be guiding our discussion today, Sue Sherman, who is the co-chair of the Studio Art Quilt Associates and the Canadian Regional Exhibition Committee. And then we will be hearing from artists featured in the show, Helena Schiffer, Kit Vincent, and Terry Ask. So they are also on here, up on the screen here. As you can see in the room, it's a very eclectic exhibition. Not only are these pieces, they are the true definition of artistry and talent, but also you can see how much hard work and practice and passion has gone into them, which is something I love about the show. And I'll also highlight to everybody that we have guided tours as well coming up. January 29th, which is next week on Thursday, we'll be having the tour at 11 a.m. We also have tours on February 22nd or 26th, sorry, and March 26th as well. So if you're interested in those, you can find information on our website, register in advance. We accept walk-ins as well, of course. It's no big deal. But yeah, so that's everything going on surrounding the show coming up. Without further ado, I'll hand off to Sue, who will lead our discussion.
Hi, thanks, Sydney. So thanks to everybody for braving the bad weather and coming out in person. For the few of you that did manage to do that, we really appreciate it. And thanks to everybody else who's joined virtually. You don't really want to hear me yak, so I'm just going to get on with it. So Studio Art Quilt Associates, I think everybody probably already knows this, but it's a nonprofit organization. This mission is to promote the art quilt. And our definition of the art quilt is a creative visual work that is layered and stitched or that references this form of stitched layered structure. And our vision is that the art quilt is universally accepted and respected as a fine art medium. So one of the ways that we do that is to create exhibitions. So this particular exhibition, Renewal, is a juried exhibition of art quilts by Canadian members of SAQA, Studio Art Quilt Associates. And some of our members are actually not currently living in Canada, but they're members of our region. And Renewal, we considered we asked the question, what do you consider to be renewal? And our artists came back with a lot of different interpretations, including rekindling, looking to a new future, finding hope, resuming an activity after an interruption, repair or recycle of something worn and used, recovering strength, or renewed cycles of life. Renewal is a SAQA regional exhibition, including the Eastern, Central, and Western regions of SAQA. And we have 3 jurors, David Kay, a gallerist from Toronto, Leona Herzog, a curator from, I believe, Manitoba, and Brent Eisner, who's an artist and curator. The venues, so far it's been to the Homer Watson House in Kitchener. It's been to the Muse in Kenora, was in Quilt Canada, and now it's come to the Bruce County Museum in Southampton, Ontario. And from there, it's going to be going to Manitoba, Alberta, and then back to Ontario to close at the Mississippi Valley Textile Museum. So if those of you who are participating in this virtually, if you want to see the exhibition, perhaps one of these places is a little closer to where you live. These are artists. I'm not going to read out all their names, but the ones that are presenting are the ones that are highlighted in red. We've got Terry Ask, Helena Sheffer, and Kit Vincent, and you'll be hearing from them later. I'd also like to mention that I've noticed Lee McLean is in our audience, and Diane Nunez, Susan Avishai from Toronto, Susan Selby from Manitoba. And Susan, I should mention, is when we say I'm the co-chair of this committee, Susan Selby is the other co-chair of the committee, and also Tony Major, who is on our committee. And I've also seen in the in the list of other guests, Teresa Stafford, who lives locally and is on our committee and who has been very, very much involved in making this exhibition a meaningful one for the folks at Bruce County Museum. So now I'm going to hand it over to Terry Ask. Terry.
Terry, just make sure to unmute your mic.
Okay, can everyone hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
So I hit the take control and my screen changed. Does it still look okay to you guys?
Yeah, it looks great.
Okay, all right. So I'm from New Westminster, BC, near Vancouver, and it's a balmy 1 degree here today and sunny. And, you know, I don't really mean to rub it in, but I kind of do. Um, I consider myself an artist, not a quilter. I'm an artist who creates with fabric. And as you can see from my self-portrait, I love color and pattern. I work in a variety of styles and techniques, and the subject matter depends on my mood and the particular challenge that I'm working for. I love experimenting and trying different techniques. One of my techniques is printing my photos on fabric, which is the technique I used for my renewal piece. And I have lots of photos to choose from as I'm always carrying my cell phone and I'm always taking pictures. This is just an example. Before I talk about my piece that's in the renewal exhibit, here are some examples of 3 pieces I made from the same dull gray photo, which is the one on the left, and using a variety of apps on my computer and my iPad. I made these 3 different variations. So I'm just constantly experimenting with what I can do with my photos. And then I print them out on fabric and do some quilting, and usually, sometimes, mount them on canvas. Okay, I can't figure out how to, oh, there we go. All right, so this is my piece that's in the renewal exhibit. It's called Witch Hazel Magic. The photo I used was somewhat subdued and a little bit grayed out, partly because I live near Vancouver and it's usually cloudy or raining. And these bloom in December and January, so it is usually cloudy. But this is what I turned it into, vibrant fiber artwork. And I'm going to explain a little bit about how I did that. So I selected my photo based on, I found a close-up of 2 flowers with a nicely blurred background. That doesn't always work, but in this case it did. And I just want to point out the witch hazel flowers are, the actual flowers themselves are 1 to 2 inches in diameter. So this was an extreme close-up. I probably took about 10 photos before I got one that was really good. And next slide. So I enhanced the photo on my computer, or I guess on my iPad, with an app called Prisma, and it boosted the colors and added some artistic effects. Then I added saturation and contrast with another program. When you're printing on fabric, you have to oversaturate the photo before printing it, because fabric absorbs light differently than paper or computer screen. And if you don't oversaturate it, then it looks dull and soft. So I printed the image on prepared fabric that would accept the ink when I put it through my printer. And then I layered it on acrylic felt and quilted it. I actually outlined the flower petals with a black micron pen because I wanted them to stand out more, and then with black thread. But by using the pen first, it just made it a little easier for me to quilt it. And I quilted the background with a lighter weight thread just to enhance that blurry look of the background. And here's a close-up of the quilting, and the Prisma app created faint diagonal lines in the background, which then I just followed that with my quilting, and if they weren't there, I made them up, which again, I think enhanced the look of the blurred background. And I think that's it for me.
I don't see the take control button. So Sydney, maybe you can move the slides because I can't see
Yeah,
where that
sure.
button is.
Just let me
Okay.
know next slide and I'll click for you.
So I am Helena Sheffer. I live in Montreal. I was born here. I've always lived here, though I have traveled a lot. My professional life was as a translator from French to English, and I translated thousands of documents, including museum catalogs, medical documents, basically everything you could think of. And I got out of it, retired just at the right time when AI was taking over translation. And so I am thrilled to be retired from translation and now able to work as an artist full time. So how would I describe myself as an artist? Quite similar to Terry, I am a colorist who works with textiles. That's how I would describe myself. And I use fabric as my palette. As you can see here in Kiribati, this is the piece that's in the show right now in the Bruce County Museum. I use hundreds of small pieces of fabric that are kind of big like this. And you'll see that a little closer in a second when I change slides. The inspiration for this piece of Renewal was the dawn, the light of the new day. Every day is a new day, a new renewal of life. And I was just thrilled to find out that this piece has been sold, and the very patient person will have to wait a year to have it. So thank you, whoever that is. So back to how I do this. So any kind of fabric is fair game. I use commercial fabrics. I use vintage textiles that I over dye, tablecloths, napkins. Damask has the most beautiful weave, and it takes the dye when I dye them so beautifully. And then you have a fabric that is unique and one of a kind and can never be repeated. I buy clothing from thrift stores, scarves, blouses, dresses, skirts, and chop them up. So my fabric ends up looking like Swiss cheese with little pieces snipped out from all over it. I use scarves and ties and silk, which is my favorite, and synthetic. So what inspires me to create? Color. Color itself is my inspiration. Can you put the next slide on, please, Sydney? So this is how I work. This is red is I have to say, is my favorite color to work with. I love every color, but red, I could work with red every single day and never get bored. But I do not like brown. I have to say, I have an artist friend who challenged me to work with brown to make a brown piece. And I forced myself to do a small 12 by 12. And it was so difficult. But it came out really nice and she ended up buying it. So I guess it wasn't too bad. But anyway, I wouldn't do another brown piece. So how do I get started? Here you see a piece in progress. I start with a basic idea. So this one, I knew I wanted to work with yellow and red. This one is called Temperature Rising, and you'll see it in the next slide. I start pulling out fabric from my cupboard. I have a closet filled with fabric organized by color. And I also have bins that are filled with little scraps because I use small pieces like this. I don't really throw anything away. So I have, they're all organized by color with the little name on it, red, orange, yellow, etc. And I end up with a table covered with fabric, and I pull pieces out, and often I'll just use one piece out of each. Like I don't repeat very much. And if I don't have what I want, I will dye it. I will over dye, I will stamp, I will paint. I have to work to get what I want. I'm very lucky to have a beautiful studio in my home. I have windows on 3 sides. I have fantastic light, lots of space. And as you can see here, I work flat on a table. This is a door, actually. And there was actually 2 doors because I was working on a huge piece and my husband extended it to be gigantic. And underneath this, I have a IKEA kitchen island with cupboards where I store things. And after I finish a piece, I've got fabric everywhere. I fold everything up. I put it all away so I can start fresh for the next one. I have a Bernina sewing machine and a handy quilter Sweet 16 that I use for the quilting. And can you go to the next slide, please? And here it is finished. This is temperature rising. This piece is 36 inches in diameter, as is the one actually behind my head, same 36 inches. So about 7 years ago, I was approached to have a solo show at a local gallery, and I started work. I decided to create a series combining my artwork with my studies to become a yoga teacher. And the colors of the chakras was the result. So this was a series of 7 pieces. Can you go to the next slides, please? Each color, so each piece was a visual representation of one of the colors of the chakras. And the solo show did not happen because of the pandemic. So one door closes, another door opens. I had this series of 7 pieces, all very large, 36 by 36. So it's like takes up a lot of space. So I entered it in the World of Threads exhibition in Oakville, which is an international textile exhibition. And so I had the whole corridor was filled with my pieces, and it was such a thrill to see them all together. And then after the show, at the end of the show, the city of Oakville bought the whole series, and they are now installed in a community center where they can be seen. Can you go to the next slide, please? They can be seen by everybody forever. So this is another one. So this is Light of a Thousand Suns. So that was the best possible outcome. You can go to the next one. Red Sky at Night, there's another one. So now I'm retired from my career as a translator, and I create art every day, but I keep time to practice and teach yoga. And if anybody would like to join my virtual yoga class on Friday mornings, you are most welcome. It's donation based, and I donate all the money every month to a different charity. I also volunteer with a Greyhound rescue organization, and I sew coats for each dog that arrives from Spain. So I've made about 70 coats so far. This is the last one in the series. Okay. And so somebody asked me once, what is the best piece of advice you've received as an artist? And that is, every work of art should have at least one tiny speck of red in it. And that's something that I actually try and do. So this is, see the tiny speck of red. This is, oh, I have lots more to say, but I think I have to probably wrap it up pretty soon. This is Rainforest. This was in a recent exhibition here in Montreal. And this one was purchased by the city of Pointe Claire for its permanent collection. So that is another thrill. And thanks to SAQA, though, many of my pieces have been juried into international shows and have traveled the world. So thank you, SAQA, for everything that you do for us textile artists. And before I conclude, I will show you a piece that I have just finished. Oops. So this here, not sure if I'm showing it right. I can't really see. This was actually quite thrilling. Somebody commissioned me, somebody who's actually bought a few of my pieces before, to create 3 similar pieces for her children. The fabric that I've used in here is from clothing of her mother who died 20 years ago and had been sitting in a cupboard. She didn't know what to do with it. So I cut it up, and there are 3 now to go to the next generation. And I will now pass the microphone on to Kit. Thank you.
Hello. I'd like to take credit for Helena's Rainforest, which is still up on the screen. But maybe somebody should try and take it off.
Here.
Ah. Okay, I'm getting reverb. Can everybody hear me? Okay. Hello, everybody. Thank you for being here. My name is Kit Vincent from Ottawa, Ontario. And the piece that you see in front of you is a work that's called Tricolor White. And it's one of three, that's why tricolor, of large monochromatic quilts that I made a few years ago, red, white, and blue. Sydney, could I have the next slide, please? Or Sue? So here they are. So I'll start with the practical truth. At the time, I had a show coming up and I needed 3 large pieces quickly. I had very little time for hesitation. I needed to come up with a structure, a theme, something that would let me work decisively across 3 large pieces. The week that I began cutting fabric for this work was the week of the Bataclan attacks in Paris. It was a series of coordinated terrorist attacks in the Paris suburb of Saint-Denis, leaving 150 people dead. The airwaves at the time were flooded with French flags, a sign of global grief and solidarity, collapsing into the same image. Let's have the next slide, please. So red, white, and blue were everywhere. And as I was posting the French flag across my own Facebook cover photo, suddenly I had a theme, those 3 colors. Why not? I'm usually pretty promiscuous with color. Like Helen, I love all color all the time. I even like brown. I want every hue, every tone, every shade on the table. So restricting myself to a single dominant color for each piece felt pretty radical. I wasn't going for symbolism. It was strictly operational, but color limitation was a way of sharpening my attention. Then a word about the French flag. I had to do a deep dive because suddenly I was very interested. Historically, the French tricolor is a loaded object. Originally, the blue and the red represented the city of Paris and its people. The white represented the monarchy, the Bourbon kings. Over time and following the revolution, those meanings softened into abstractions. Red represented passion and sacrifice. Blue represented reflection and reason. And white, positioned between them, was a kind of mediator, sitting between red's passion and blue's reason. That placement mattered. White for me was not going to be neutral. White absorbs, it reflects, it exposes. For me, it was the space where conflict becomes visible. So back to the quilt. Can we have the next slide, please? Tricolor white is anything but pure. It's constructed from hand-dyed cottons. Every color in the rainbow is there, but at a value of about 8 or higher on a scale of 1 to 10. Creams, grays, faint blues, and yellows, a whole series of what I like to call almost whites. Normally, when these lengths of cloth come out of a dye bath, I dismiss them. They're sitting there all wrinkled up, looking like manqués. But once they're iron folded and seen together, you get this beautiful light spray of very, very subtle, very beautiful tones. To help it along, I placed a black batting under the white ground to allow the lighter strips to pop forward. What emerged was a surface under a quiet pressure, order trying to stay intact and motion pushing against it. That tension is the work. The next slide, please. I often begin a piece without a clear verbal framework. It means the thinking happens while working and through the material. Only later, living with the piece, preferably looking at it from a fair distance, do I recognize what it's insisting on. Balance not so much as harmony, but as a continual adjustment. Recovery not as resolution, but as maintenance. White here does not represent peace. It represents vigilance. There's a Canadian connection. The next slide, please. This understanding brought me back to Joyce Wayland. Back when I was working for the government, way before I ever began quilting, I worked in a building that had a quilt hanging in its lobby. It was on loan from the Canada Art Bank. It was huge, and it hung behind a large glass window. Sometimes when the elevator didn't come quite fast enough for me, I would meander over and take a closer look at this beauty. Each letter is a separate quilt, sewn to the background. In Reason Over Passion, Joyce Wayland chose quilting, a soft, domestic, feminized form, to speak directly to issues of political identity and national myth. Issues of the day back then. That textile lineage is important to me. Textiles are often asked to be comforting. I'm more interested in what happens when they carry a message of quiet discomfort, when softness holds a contradiction, this contradiction. Next slide. When I was invited to show a piece for this Renewal show, this one just felt right. Not because it's cheerful, but because it's about balance. That steady moment after the storm when you just start to find your footing again. In the French flag, white connects red and blue. In this quilt, it connects emotion and thought. Renewal for me lives in that in-between space, the quiet work of stitching things back together. Thanks, and I welcome any questions you might have.
Thanks so much to all three of you. That was really, really enlightening. I just want to move on to the question part of this presentation and was wondering if any of the speakers have any questions for the other speakers.
I do.
Go ahead.
Okay, I have a question for Elena. Two questions. One, why the circle format? And two, how do you get those things to hang without flopping?
Good question. Well, I do make things that are square and rectangle also, but I have to say that the circle has really captured my heart. It all started when an artist friend of mine gave me actually a 12-inch circle like that. It's plywood. And I said, Helena, I bet you could do something with that. And I had never thought about circular work before. So I did one, and then I was just hooked. And so I buy these plywood circles, but actually during the pandemic, when I was doing those 7 big, huge ones, my husband made them for me because they were so expensive to buy and hard to get. But now I buy them. So it's glued onto the plywood. The piece is
Wow,
glued
so
onto
they
the
must be
plywood.
heavy.
Not that heavy. No.
Not that bad. Okay.
No.
Okay,
But
thank
they
you.
are
And then
heavier than a quilt. Your piece that's in Renewal, I've picked that up. It's heavier than a quilt would be. That was the same size as that.
Yeah,
But
yeah, but I do also make them on canvas too. I put them on canvas, and actually that all started when I was running an art gallery. I had, anyway, long story. Anyway, I had an art gallery, and I discovered through this gallery that people viewed textile pieces more as art when they were on the wall, and especially when they were on a canvas, than if they were, just
It's true.
hanging from a rod. And so that's how they all started getting put on canvas and on plywood.
Yeah.
But I do make them as quilts too, with no backing.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good
And
question.
Terry, did you have a question for either of the other two?
I had a question for Kit. Oh, sorry, for Helena. What size are the little pieces of fabric that you use?
They're about like that.
Oh, okay. I thought so, but it looks like that would take a long time to put together.
Well, people always say, you must be so patient. I'm sure you all hear that. Oh, you must be so patient. You have so much patience. And I always say, it's not patience, it's passion.
Yes, but it does look amazing.
And there's a question, Helena, about how you attach all your pieces. Are they glued or do you use Misty Fuse or something?
Yeah, I use Misty Fuse. So you can see it here where it's white. There's a felt layer, and then there's Misty Fuse, and then all the pieces, and then I put tulle over the top before I stitch it, because otherwise the foot would get caught in all the fabric.
Hmm.
So you don't see the tulle at all when it's finished. I have many colors of tulle.
I bet. And so, Helena, do you have a question for one of the others?
Kit, do you use just hand-dyed fabrics for your beautiful, gorgeous pieces? Or do
I
you use
use
commercial?
I use commercial. Mostly, I use commercial fabrics for backings, but I will have the occasional commercial piece sneak is the word I'm trying to find, especially the red one. There are some pieces, and sometimes I'll use them as supporting strips underneath the colored strip, just to give it dimension.
So
I should mention
Yeah.
I've been in Kit's studio, and she has an extensive collection of her own hand-dyed fabric, and extensive collections of lots of other things too, including embroidery floss.
I know.
But yeah,
Yeah, I have a
it's
tendency to collect things, and I buy them like the embroidery floss. I have it all organized into 7 boxes of embroidery floss, and I've yet to find a use for it. But I have it there because I know someday I will have a need, and it'll be there waiting for me.
and all
Oh.
in arranged in order of color.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm giving away your secrets. All right.
Yeah,
I
I
have a
know.
question. I have a question for Kit. How many layers of fabric have you got there in some of those strips? It looks like it's multiple layers.
Sometimes I have as few as 2, most times 3, and occasionally 1.
Okay, but not more than 3.
Very occasionally I'll throw in a 4th one if
Good.
it's needed.
Okay, thank you.
It gets to be rough on the sewing machine,
Yes.
because the sewing machine has to go through those 4 layers, then the ground layer, the batting and the backing.
Right.
Do you use just a regular sewing machine, or is it a special kind of industrial machine?
I use a domestic sewing machine,
Ah.
straight stitch.
So here's a question for Kit from
Mhm.
Linda. How much do you plan the arrangement of your strips before you start stitching? Do you sketch or do small studies or create sections of strips and arrange them, or follow another process?
Oh, what a fabulous question. Okay, I work directly on the wall. If, like, as you can see in the slide above, there's some little sketches. They're very thumbnail, but let's see, how do I answer this? Working with the ground, I lay a strip on the wall, I look at it, I lay another one next to it, and I pin. And I have a huge collection of pins I mean, thousands of pins. The best ones are the white clover pins because they're sharp and they're very easy to use. But that entire white quilt on that studio wall there, before it was sewn, it was pinned, all of it. So I don't sew anything until the whole composition is resolved.
Thank you, Kit. And the other question, Lee McLean is saying your collecting of materials just in case is not unique. And Wendy asked the question of Helena, do you use tulle to hold the little pieces in place before quilting? But you already answered that as part of another question. So
I'd like to add, though, if I may, that I also use a lot of embroidery thread. Maybe I'll come and visit you, Kit.
Absolutely, that would be delightful.
And Terry,
print by
oh,
machine,
sorry.
but then I don't know if you can see it, but I add, see, there's big stitches with thicker thread. And in that one, actually, I have some hand-dyed embroidery thread that I used, like that I dyed, just to add more dimension to the piece.
Terry, if I could ask a question, what software do you use for manipulating the colors of your images?
I use a variety of iPad apps. I've been taking courses from Susie Monday. She does a really good course called Art on the iPad, and I think I'm taking it right now. And I think this is the 4th or 5th time I've taken it because there's always new apps. So some are on my computer, some are on my iPad, and some of these, if not all of them, have gone through 2 or 3 different apps. So I'll take the photo, I'll do something in one app, and then I'll do something in another app. And I always mean to keep track of which ones I've used, and I almost always forget to keep track. In fact, the one at the top on this slide, I went back to try and figure, because I actually created the image a couple of years ago in one of Susie's classes, and I went back to try and figure out what app I used, and I could not figure it out.
Remember, yeah.
Well, or it's an app that doesn't exist anymore because they come and go. So yeah, I just play really until I get a result that I like.
I have a question for Terry. How do you print? Do you print your own compositions, or do you send them out to Spoonflower or such?
I do print my own. I have a 16-inch Epson printer. So I can only go that big, but that usually works for me because I work relatively small. These are all 12 by 12. I have not yet sent my work out. The problem for me is I'm usually working at the last minute for a deadline. And if I had to send it to Spoonflower, or preferably a place in Canada, because then I think it would come back to me quicker, and wait for it, that just doesn't work the way I work.
Oh,
Is
Terry,
your
I have a
Epson
question.
printer a dye-based, or is it what type of inks does it have?
That's a good question. I think it's dye-based. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Can I just ask, we've got people who are dialing into this virtually are asking questions in the chat, but do any of the people that are in the room there with you, Sydney, have a question?
Yeah, I'll ask if you guys have a question. Can you hear me okay, by the way, Sue and everyone?
Yep. Yeah,
Yeah.
I can hear you perfectly.
So here's the mic here. I think it should be able to pick up what you say if you ask loud enough, or I can repeat it if it's not quite loud enough. But do you have any questions for any of the artists? Not really? No? I have a question actually for Terry. So of course the 2 examples that you've shown, and you might have touched on this already, but the 2 examples you've shown have obviously come from real life, like photographs. Do you find you just gravitate towards realism, like pulling your practice from realism the most? Have you ever done like an abstract type of work, or do you just gravitate towards that? I find it really interesting because I'm a photographer, but I've just never taken my photos. And I also do a bit of drawing, but more like realism as well. So I kind of like, I'm with you on that, but have you ever tried an abstract style?
I do a lot of abstract work, um, but not printing on fabric. That's just usually fused applique. But I do also do abstract work, and I tend to, as I said earlier, I use a variety of techniques. I find I admire people like Helena and Kit who use the same technique over and over again, because I think that creates a very interesting series. But I get bored doing the same thing over and over again. So I'll go back to something, but I always want to do something totally different in between. So I'll alternate between abstract and printing or some other technique.
Do you have like a photography practice outside of the textile practice or not so
Nope.
much? No?
Nope, it's just me walking around with my iPhone and taking pictures of whatever inspires me.
Yeah, super cool.
Can I ask a question of Terry? The middle picture with all those circles, how did you get all those circles on there? Are those quilted or is that the program?
No, that is an app called, I can't remember now, Aerograph. Aerograph. And I had used another app previously to give it the rainbow colors, and that's the one I can't find anymore. And then I took that image and put it in Aerograph, and there's a bunch of different settings for how big you want the bubbles to be and what color you want the background to be in between them. In this case, I used black, but I could have used a different color. It would have given it a totally different look. So usually I try several different options until I find something. And if I'm smart, I'll save each image as I go along, because I might decide it's the best, but I can't figure out how to go back and get it again. But that was definitely at least 2 apps I put that through.
That's beautiful. So is that an actual piece or that's just a photograph that you've manipulated?
It's a photograph that I printed on fabric and then quilted.
Oh,
So
okay,
that is
it's a
that is a
finished
photo
piece.
of the final piece. It's mounted on a black canvas that's painted black.
Okay, that was my question.
The
Oh,
photo-
can I ask
Here's
a
an
question about?
example. Here.
Going
Yeah,
to
go
ask
ahead.
a question about the mounting. I'm always interested in how people mount onto canvas. Do you glue or do you pin tuck?
I use double-sided tape. I find I don't like glue. I don't dye my own fabrics. I'm not a person who likes getting messy and stuff. In fact, I can barely bring myself to paint the canvas black, because I'm always afraid I'm going to make a mess. But yeah, double-sided tape I find works.
Just Scotch double-sided tape?
No, a little heavier than that. I was using carpet tape actually, but
yeah.
a friend recently turned me on to some archival double-sided tape that I think artists use for embroidery to mount that.
Okay.
And it works really well too.
Good to know.
There's a double-sided tape they use in framing for, yeah.
Okay.
I use glue. I use just glue.
Yeah,
And
I
when
know many people who use.
When I do that, I don't know if you can see the, whoops, where's the cat right there?
Yeah, I think I can make you bigger.
Square one. So
Oh.
this one, when I do the square ones like this, I cut the edges so that they're kind of feathery.
Okay.
And I glue the piece onto the canvas, which I paint first. So you see the painted canvas, which
Right.
blends in with the textile, which is not black, which is like painted. And
Right.
then glue the canvas, the quilt onto the canvas.
And the glue that you use is just Lepage? Is that?
Just, yeah, the transparent clear glue.
Oh, okay. So like a gel or one of the medium, a matte medium.
Yeah. No,
Okay.
it's like a big bottle of clear glue.
Clear. Okay. I'm. Some of them are archival, some of them aren't. That's why I'm sort of specific about.
Yeah. No, it's not going anywhere. I don't think it would do any, like it's
Right.
like once it's down, it's down. It
Yeah.
doesn't move.
Right. So when you construct your pieces, I gather everything is soft until you mount it onto the plywood. So
Yeah.
during the tool and all of that, the sewing, it's just the batting. Do you even bother with a backing?
No, no,
Yeah,
there's
okay.
the felt Misty Fuse fabric tool. But
Felt,
when I do
okay.
like a quilt, an actual quilt,
Right.
there's batting and backing and
And then you staple it to the back. You staple it to the back of the plywood.
no,
Oh, it's just glued.
it's
Right.
glued. Yeah, it's raw edge glued. Well,
Okay.
it's zigzagged around the edge.
Oh,
It's,
I see. Yes. Okay.
yeah, and then there's a tape that goes around the side.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
it's nicely finished. And then it hangs with a wire and a nail.
As they say, there are a lot of ways of skinning the cat. I'm interested in all of them.
Yeah, well, it took a lot of experimentation to get to this point.
Yeah. So if we can move on to maybe a different subject, I'm just wondering, Kit, if you can describe to us your dyeing process. Are you using Procyon dyes?
Yeah, I use MX Procyon dyes. I don't think I have any images. It's sort of too bad. I could have put some together for you. I like very little modeling. I like a smooth dye process. And I'm a student of Carol Soderlund's. I've taken several of her workshops in the States, traveled down to the States to take them. And so she uses she dyes, she has this work in buckets, but I have little Campers washing machines. They're like a 5-gallon bucket with a little motor underneath. I have 4 of them.
Oh my
And
God, that sounds
oh,
amazing. I did
yeah,
not
and
know you could get those. Where did you get it? Sorry, I'm so
Amazon.
excited. Pardon?
Amazon.
Amazon. Oh,
Okay.
Amazon.
Yeah.
Sorry, go
.ca.
ahead.
Yeah, so I have 4 of those things. I plug them in and they're all whirling around. And it's neat because they twirl like 5 times clockwise and then 5 times counterclockwise. And they keep doing that for about 15 minutes. And then I stop, and all I have to do is I wear a stopwatch, or I use my watch, and I monitor the time. So that goes on like for about 60 minutes of that. And they come out beautiful. I then take those buckets and I throw them into my front loader and rinse. They go through a rinse and then 3 washes: a cold wash, a warm wash, and then a very, very hot wash. You're probably getting more technical information than you really need, but
And
that's
the
how
hot
they
wash is with Synthropol?
with Synthropol. And on occasion, when Synthropol was not available, I've used just dish detergent, and it works just as well. Synthropol is particularly good in preventing back staining when there's an occasional back stain.
And
So
in order to get the smooth color, are you using salt in your dye mix?
no, salt works better when there's a lot of liquid, but I use small batch. I do small batch dyeing. Those little 5 gallons, I use very little water in them. And salt is good when you've got a lot of water, and it's easier to get smooth color results when you have a lot of water. But I don't have I don't have 5 large commercial washing machines. I just have these small buckets. So much less water. If you have less water, you don't need as much salt.
Okay, thank
Some
you.
salt.
And I worry now that we're getting way off onto a tangent of how to do this work. when artists get together, this is the sort of thing we talk about.
This is what we talk about.
Yeah, so I know there are some artists in the group, but not everyone's an artist. So let's move on to a different topic. And oh, Teresa's got her hand up. Do you want to ask a question, Teresa, or are you disagreeing with something?
She'll have to use the chat to ask.
Yeah, you're gonna need to use chat.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask a more general question for all three of you. What is it in your life that made you decide to become an artist? So, Kit, you start.
Well, I'll tell you something. I remember walking around in that lobby in that building that I worked in, looking at Joyce Wayland's work, and I remember feeling so far away and just thinking that that would just be, there'd be nothing more fun than to sew together some lovely letters, each a different color, and put it on a gorgeous background. And I just, that for me was a galvanizing moment. Prior to that, though, I was able to sew. I always did sew, and I sewed my children's clothes until they begged me to stop. And it was natural for me then to move to sewing something that would hang on the wall, especially when I wanted large, colorful pieces for the wall, and I couldn't really afford the ones that I would see in museums or in galleries. I thought I could make them myself. So that's sort of why quilting. And there's something about cloth.
Yeah, sorry, we've only got 3 minutes left. I just wanted to move on to Helena.
Well, I started like most of us making traditional quilts. And then I realized I just don't like following instructions. So I started doing my own and started doing, I did these big monochromatic pieces with strips and squares. And then I realized I didn't need to do the sewing. I could just cut and collage. And so that's how this series came about, because I don't like taking instructions from people.
That I can relate to.
Short.
Terry?
I would say very similar. I learned how to sew making clothes. My mother always encouraged all of us to be artistic. I didn't have any quilts in my family history. So it wasn't until I was in my 30s that the two came together. And a friend invited me to take a quilt workshop, and I realized that I could make art using fabric in my sewing machine. And the rest is history. I just fell in love with that media.
Excellent. Thank you. I wanted to say, Kit, did you know that there was a Joyce Wayland exhibition at the art gallery in Toronto? I went to see it. I didn't even know who she was, but who knew people were doing art quilting in the 60s? And it was a Canadian woman. And
yeah.
And she got very little respect for it. Who knew?
But she is, I think, the only living artist, though, that did have a show at the National Gallery of Canada in her lifetime. She was well connected, though, I believe.
Well, her
in the
husband was a
artistic
famous
circles.
artist. Yeah.
Yeah, I think she was one of the only ones that had a solo show at the National Gallery. Yeah. But yeah, at the AGO, her show was just there at the AGO, and I didn't get a chance. I think it might have closed recently, or in January.
I think it did, yeah.
Yeah.
It was in Montreal last year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, in Montreal last year.
Yeah, but we studied her very heavily in my art history degree. We loved her, Joyce Wayland.
Oh,
Good to know.
She's one of my ones.
Yeah. So they definitely didn't shy away from her. In these days, they're giving her credit she deserves, I think.
Yes,
Her
work
work was certainly
never.
It was certainly innovative. Yeah. I think that's it for this and for questions. I will just give a bit of a plug to Teresa's class that she's doing during March break. with students. I don't know if the sign up is out there for that class yet, but there is a small fabric project, no sewing involved, for children during the March break week that if you'd like this kind of thing, you might find that your children like it too. So I would recommend that. Teresa's gone to a lot of work getting ready for it, and she's a very enthusiastic teacher. So I think it'll be quite good. So I'll turn it back over to you, Sydney, and if you have
Yeah.
any closing words.
Yeah, you're right. I forgot to mention at the beginning, on March 18th at 1 p.m. is our Honu Friend Sea Turtle Quilt Workshop. So it's for ages between 9 to 14 is what we've written, but you know, it's like open to whoever would like to join. And yeah, they'll be making a 10-inch by 12-inch mini quilt featuring a sea turtle. So I should have brought my example up to show. It's on my desk that Teresa gave me. But yeah, looking forward to that. And if anyone wants to, you know, it's family friendly, anyone can join. So yeah, and thank you all for coming in person, virtually. Hopefully there wasn't too many technical difficulties virtually. I had to help a few people over email, but I think it ended up working out fine. And thank you, ladies, Sue, Kit, Vincent, Helena, and Terry. Thank you so much for all the hard work that went into this talk and for all the meetings ahead of time to help me out. And with this technological situation, it worked out pretty good. Yeah, so thank you so much. And for those in person, take your time to look around the show. We have some coffee and treats at the back as well for you guys. Yeah, so thank you all. I'll have a recording at the end of this, which we're hoping to put on the website. Otherwise, I will try to share it with the registrants of this. So please keep an eye out for that. I'll try my best, depending how big of a file and everything.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, stay warm, everyone. And we'll hope to see you in the museum sometime soon.
You bet.
Okay.
Excellent.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. End the event. End event. Oh, I got some hard.